Well, from the humorous to the serious, we are now going to talk to Mr. Ken Cloke. Did I get it right? Ken Cloke with the group Mediators Beyond Borders. We're going to talk about dispute resolution. Mediators Beyond Borders is a group that settles disputes all over the world. Ken Cloke is the president. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization?
Sure. I've been a mediator for 30 years full-time. I've mediated thousands of conflicts of all kinds: environmental conflicts, commercial conflicts, conflicts between kids who commit crimes and their victims, divorces, family disputes, marriages, you name it. Mediators Beyond Borders is an organization that we formed 3 years ago. We're all volunteer mediators, and we work around the world to build conflict resolution capacity in local communities. So the object of it is to build people's skills so that they can resolve their own conflicts themselves. We don't come in to say, here's how you should do it. We work with people to identify what's actually working now within their culture, and then find out what isn't working and look for possible solutions that might fit within that framework.
Can you just break that down a little bit and just tell our viewers, what does that mean? What do you do when you go in to mediate a dispute?
Well, the steps are rather simple, deceptively simple, but fairly clear. The first is to set the stage for a conversation that will be collaborative and constructive. So instead of having people at adversarial odds with one another, we seat them a little bit closer to each other. We ask them questions about themselves. We set ground rules for the process. We answer any questions that people might have, and we give them a framework for how we're going to proceed. We then listen to them, tell stories about what has happened. And within those stories, we surface the underlying emotions. We identify the interests, which is not what you want, but the reasons why you want it. And then we look for openings into problem solving. We engage in collaborative forms of negotiation. If we can't agree, we agree on how we're going to disagree. And then we confirm the commitments that people have and look for ways of closing the process, reaching closure.
So this is way more than just creating lists of pros and cons. This is real deep psychological work.
Absolutely, very deep psychological work. And I should also say deep spiritual work, not in the sense of religion, but in the sense of realizing that every conflict is a kind of spiritual crisis for people. Which direction am I going to move in? My way of understanding this is that every conflict that we experience in our lives occurs precisely at a crossroads, defined on the one hand by a problem that you are now required to solve, and on the other hand by the fact that you do not yet quite have the skills you need to solve it. So every conflict that we get is an invitation into a higher level of skill. And those skills are all learnable. People already know them in many instances. They just can't use them with their own family members or with their own community or with this issue or whatever. So the idea is to bring in someone who is outside the problem, who is able to look at it a little bit differently, not get plugged in, and actually help people gain some perspective on what they're doing that's making it worse.
I'll remind everyone this is interactive. Ken would love to have your questions and comments. You can, if you're on Twitter, you can use the hashtag OneClimate and we'll see those. And if you're on the OneClimate.net website, you can just post them right in the chat box there. And Anuradha Vitachi, our own house psychologist, will be monitoring all that and bringing it all through for us. Anuradha?
Well, he's just mentioning that I also have a therapeutic training, and this does seem very much like a safe space created in a therapeutic setting when everybody feels safe enough to get beyond all their blame and all those things and to what's underneath everything, and where you, of course, find a lot of common ground. I was going to also say that, do you regard this as a kind of geotherapy, if you like, that climate change is therefore an opportunity for us to learn skills about how to deal with it?
Margaret Mead, a famous cultural anthropologist, said that life is filled with opportunities that are disguised as problems and conflicts. So my sense of this is that we have evolved as a species to a point where nation states are no longer capable of solving the fundamental problems that we face. There are no international organizations that are presently capable of solving these problems, and climate change is one of many of these problems. So what is required? And the answer is for us to learn how to live together on the same planet. And what climate change is driving us to is a higher level of relationship, because we very simply can't succeed using military force, using litigation, using bureaucracy, using all the mechanisms even that are present here in this conference. The problem itself is asking us to exercise a higher level of skill. And our sum of what those higher level skills are is mediation. It's actually one of a number, but we have to learn how to listen to each other, how to eliminate the prejudices and biases that separate us, how to work with diversity, how to recognize and satisfy each other's interests, how to negotiate collaboratively, and at the end, how to resolve our conflicts when none of those succeed.